So what is up, Kings? Hope all is well. Hope you guys are having a good weekend, whenever you guys hear this video. If you're not having a good week or weekend, just realize you're going to get through it. You'll be just fine. May seem shitty right now, but you'll power through and be on the other end of it, on the other side of it soon enough. So let's talk today about the most important skill you can have. I think that this is applicable to both men and women, but specifically for men. Anything that's applicable to both sexes will always be more applicable, for the most part, towards men, simply because of the performative nature that is the man's role. So, what is this all-important, most important skill that a man has or needs to have, if they don't have, in order to be successful and keep powering through, pushing through towards success? Most important skill that a person can have, in my estimation, is not to necessarily be a super talented, 6'3", 6'4" hunk man of a man, to be super intelligent, to be super witty, funny. Those things definitely help and are good skills to have, especially being able to combine intelligence as far as what they call book smarts, as well as intelligence with regards to street smarts, for lack of a better phrase. If you can combine those two things and have knowledge of the real world and how the real world works, human nature and things like that, and you can combine them with the ability to read and comprehend and analyze and things like that, it's obviously very helpful, but still not the most important thing. To me, the most important thing is the ability to keep moving forward, to have a short memory, especially with regards to mistakes that one makes. I myself am still working on this skill. It's something that I myself have not been the most skilled at. I have a lot of OCD. I have, for example, when at home, I always have to check and make sure that the stove is off. When it comes to locked doors, I check it multiple times. When it comes to making mistakes, I definitely have a habit of replaying it over and over and over in my mind, to the point of exhausting every last bit that mistake can be exhausted and thought about. That is what I do. Now, I've gotten better over the years, but it's still something, unfortunately, that I do. And I wish that I could have a short memory, because a lot of people who do have a short memory, it's not that they don't or are never affected by things and don't remember certain things, because they do, but they're able to quickly move off from it. They're able to think about it for a moment, think about it in the context that it needs to be thought about, and then move forward. This is a hugely important skill, guys. It really is. Because in my experience, this has been the case in sports. Some of the best athletes that I've been around are people who have short memories and especially in sports like that involve shooting or target practice, basketball or DBs in football. You have to be able to move on from a mistake, a misplay, quickly. It doesn't mean that you don't think about your mistake, because a wise person does still consider their mistake and see where they can improve, where they can get better. But a successful individual is able to think about it quickly, not harp on it, not dwell on it, and move forward to the next thing and put it in the rear view where it belongs, and not make that mistake again. There's a recent video that I recorded where I was discussing this in a wide variety of ways. It was in the context of talking about what I call snakes in the grass and the selfish nature of human beings, and how human beings, by and large, outside of family members who have unconditional love for you, or rare friendships where they have unconditional support of you, by and large, things are conditional and will drop you. Human beings will drop you in a moment's notice if you no longer hold the value to them that has said value to whatever relationship they have with you. Because as soon as that value extinguishes itself, they will no longer hold on to that friendship in the same way, which it makes sense, because in past times when we lived in a more communal system, people had to have value towards other people. So it makes sense. But nonetheless, with regards to relational things, it's a hard pill for some people to swallow, because you want to believe that there's this unconditional support from you from those who say that they support you. But nonetheless, that was the context in which I was discussing it. And bringing this back, having a short memory is super important. So I don't know where I left it off the first time, the first part of this video, but I'll just delve right back into it. The number one skill that you can have is the ability to move on quickly from mistakes, issues, embarrassments, whatever the case may be, and put it in the rearview mirror. And again, I've already said this, I want to emphasize, this does not mean, and I am not saying that you're not supposed to take accountability, that you're not supposed to reflect on things, because you should. You should reflect on things, especially if you legitimately fucked up. But there is, the skill that I'm talking about is that fine line between reflecting too much, reflecting not enough, and the right amount of reflection to actually learn something while not thinking about it too much and being able to move forward. That is the skill. Even DBs in the NFL who have short memories watch film on mistakes. Okay? So, and oddly enough, for me, I do something that perhaps somebody like myself who naturally thinks about things a lot, my whole life I've been a thinker. I've been somebody, and I think it runs in my family. Both my mom and my dad are similar, especially my dad. So part of it is genetic, I believe, and a learned behavior. But as a sports official, this is something that initiated me understanding this, the need for this skill and how important this skill really is. Because even, for example, in officiating, you're gonna make mistakes. No official is a perfect official and gets it 100% correct. Even if, as an official, you call the game 100%, it as like by the book, you got it 100% correct, you were fucking diming it out there, catching everything, seeing everything, boop, tweet. Even if that is the case, you can still, because there's some subjectiveness to it, you can still have somebody who's a veteran or an evaluator or of course a coach or a fan who says that you fucked up somewhere. And honestly, sometimes, not all the time, in fact most of the time it's not the case, but sometimes there's some validity to it because it's a situational thing. So nonetheless, regardless, I had to learn this, and in officiating, you have to be able to move on from legitimate mistakes and put it in the rearview mirror, because what would happen to me is I had a lot of natural skill officiating due to playing sports my whole life. And in officiating, there's what's called the look, and suffice it to say, the look is, you know, being in good shape, having a good physique. I would add it's definitely beneficial to be taller. And I had numerous officials, top tier officials, tell me that I had all of these things going for me, but they noticed that I struggled to move past certain calls, especially if people in the gym noticed the missed calls. So being able to move off of things is an extremely, extremely beneficial skill, guys. I'm telling you, it is so important. And in particular, if I were to like really succinctly articulate the message here, I would say it's the ability to reflect, but not too much, learn something from a mistake, but still move on in a advantageous timeline that is not causing you to dwell and stay in the past. Moving forward, as this video goes forward, I'm going to discuss some of the drawbacks to people who really dwell, and I know this firsthand better than I wish I did, because I'm somebody, as I said in this video, that unfortunately has struggled with not being able to move off of things. So the bottom line is, if you get to a point where you're dwelling on it too much, it can legitimately become an unhealthy thing where you are indefinitely embarrassed of yourself. You think less than of yourself. And some of this comes from a place of desiring to be perfect and struggling to realize that one is not perfect. But just for the sake of this video, not delving into that too much, although that definitely is an aspect of it. The bottom line is, when you dwell on things too much, you do really become a negative or get into an indefinite negative headspace. And that's really what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid this consistently negative thought pattern, this negative story that you tell yourself. I don't agree with everything regarding this, but a lot of self-help books I remember I read Mike Cernovich, who used to be on InfoWars. He had the book Guerrilla Mindset, and it was definitely somewhat popular for a little while. But regardless of Guerrilla Mindset, in self-help books, which obviously have their limitations and their issues, one of the common themes that is discussed is this pattern that your brain goes into, this story that is told in your mind. And that is the goal, is to break, especially if you are somebody that tends to dwell and succumb to this negative thought pattern. You have to find a way to get out of it, to break this story that you are telling yourself. I think part of it too is, especially if you are this is going to sound conceited and dickish, but I'm going to say it anyways. Especially if you are a more intelligent individual, you tend to unconsciously believe that you can think your way out of whatever mistake you made. And if you just think about it hard enough, you'll find some opening to make it not so. And ironically, that is a ridiculously stupid thing, because of course you can't think your way out of it. So it's ironic that I say it's intelligent people that believe they can do this, but of course it's stupid in and of itself, because nobody can do that. So, and again, you believe that you can think your way out of it. And so it's just, at the end of the day, you have to will yourself to stop dwelling and overthinking this whole thing. You're not going to be able to will it into changing. The mistake is made. What's done is done. And that's what you have to constantly remind yourself of. Now, the other aspect that I want to add to this is, as an Orthodox Christian, I try not to lead with the Christian stuff, because I know not everybody is Christian, and I believe that if I can demonstrate knowledge without the Christian element, people are far more likely to listen to the Christian aspect when they hear it. But the Christian side of things, this is really why believing in God and having faith is such a helpful thing, because this is exactly why God says to believe, to utilize God, to give it up to God, that was just some water, to give your stress and your concerns up to God. And I got to tell you guys, it surprisingly works well, and I know atheists are going to be like, well, that's just a coping mechanism. You darn tootin' it is. You're just putting it up to some make-believe spaghetti monster in the sky. But don't we all put trust and thwart our or try to unload our burden, the backpack that we carry, the 60-pound duffel bag on the back? Don't we all try to unload it by means that we don't see? There's very few human beings who believe in absolutely nothing. Even people who are not Christians, but they also are not like mythical, kind of like foo-foo in the sky type people. Even they put a lot of their trust in science and in their own understanding. So, but nonetheless, being a Christian has helped even when I wasn't actively trying to break the cycle of overthinking things. I naturally would get to a point where I would just become so exhausted mentally, and I would just say, God, please take this off of me. Please unburden me. Please, please, God, unburden me. And I cannot tell you how many times I've done that. And even when I was not actively doing, trying to change my thought patterns and the stories that I tell myself regarding mistakes, even when I wasn't doing that, I would still ask God for help. Because in a ironic way, or maybe not ironic, but I believe that, because I don't believe that God gives us things that we can't handle. But that's also with the idea in mind that it presupposes that God doesn't give anything that we can't give us, anything that we can't handle, with God joining us on the ride. And man, people who don't believe in God, that must be a lonely, lonely path, and stressful path towards dealing with things. And I definitely am empathetic towards that struggle. But in other words, I think God does challenge us and put things in our paths, especially if we are falling away from God. I don't think all Christians believe what I'm about to say, but if you believe God is God and is this, if you believe that God is all-encompassing, all-knowing, all-powerful, if you believe that, then it shouldn't be out of the bounds of God to be able to do this. But I believe, again, not all Christians will believe this, but I believe that God puts things in our path, especially when we're falling away from God, towards bringing us closer to God, because God knows that going through it alone will be a very, very tough path. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it on this subject. Having a short memory is super, super beneficial. And there's multiple ways that you can go about it. I think if you apply an approach of everything that I just said, I think you'll be in good shape. And this, to me, nonetheless, is the most important thing that you can try to do in order to not have some of these burdens and be able to move forward in a successful manner, healthy manner. I really believe that most of the most successful people really do have a amazing ability to learn regarding their mistakes, but not dwell on it too much, and move forward with just the right amount of thought put on whatever mistake that they had. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to smash the subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, King. See you guys next time. Christ is King. Peace.